Hello, everyone, and welcome to another community conversation on Facebook Live and WHBG Channel 20. I'm Mayor Eric Pappenfuss. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great topic today, which is Vision Zero and transportation improvements within the city of Harrisburg. We want to update you on all sorts of projects and take your questions. But before we get started on that, we have a few general announcements. And I thought I'd begin with what may be on your mind if you're a regular viewer of these Facebook Lives, and that's the fact that, yes, I got my first haircut in 4 months yesterday, and it was a great experience. I want to give a real shout out to all the businesses out there that are working very, very hard to create safe environments for all of us, even in the midst of this pandemic. My barber was incredible. And one of the ways that we can support these small businesses is by getting behind our new Choose HBG economic development campaign, which is being spearheaded by our Economic Development Office. This is going to start in August, and if you know a business in Harrisburg that hasn't yet signed up to be a part of this marketing campaign, please let them know to visit the website and sign up for Choose HBG. They can submit their logo. We will do collective and joint marketing of these businesses, and many of us, including myself, are going to make it an effort to support all of these Harrisburg-based businesses throughout the month of August very publicly. And if you follow my Twitter feed, I'll be tweeting about them as I visit them and support them. It's really an effort to try and take some of our dollars and spend them on city-based businesses, maybe change certain patterns. If you're eating out, try eating out from Harrisburg restaurants. If you need dry cleaning done, try and use a Harrisburg dry cleaner before heading out of the city. And it's going to be a great campaign. So that's the Choose HBG campaign. That's the hashtag. Look for more of that coming up, and we've got to continue to support our small businesses here, many of whom are really struggling. Also wanted to address the rally last night. As many of you may have seen or read, there was a Black Lives Matter rally at Reservoir Park. The venue was really very well done. I want to thank our Parks and Recreation team. Social distancing was strictly adhered to. People wore masks and basically spread out all up the hill from the band shell in a very positive way. The rally was heated at times. There were a lot of frank exchanges, but I think it was very good. There were a number of members of City Council, including Ben Allett and Asha Green and Westburn Majors, who were on the panel, and other members of City Council that were in the audience. And there was a frank discussion about things such as the Community Policing Review Board and use of force policies and you name it. We're able to give a number of updates. City Council is planning to have additional town halls and public meetings, especially about the Community Review Board in August, and stay tuned for those dates. Those are things that are going to be organized by Harrisburg City Council. I thought it was a really good event, and I'm certainly willing to do more of those as we move forward. I want to thank organizers Brent Lipscomb and Kamika Campbell, both of whom have been on our Facebook Lives for really putting together a thoughtful and well done event. One of the final questions at the event had to do with a topic which I know is on everyone's mind, and that is testing for COVID-19, why it isn't more widespread, and how is it going to affect the return to school. I should mention we also had a school board member, Jane Buckwalk, at the town hall last night. We talked a little bit about Hamilton Health, which is really pioneering and testing a new mobile testing strategy for the city of Harrisburg. They have 50 kits that they are deploying immediately. If it works well, they're going to expand that program. But we also addressed the fact that there just isn't the supply chain or the ability to do the type of widespread testing that people in Harrisburg want, and that we need as a society and a community if we're going to be sending our kids back to school. So if people want to know why that is, we're going to have a future Facebook Live. I'm going to promo it now, devoted to this topic, because it is a very serious topic. It has to do with as much to do with a lack of leadership on the federal level as anything else. But we'll try and give you some updates on the tests, how they work, why they aren't more prevalent, what it means for Harrisburg, and what we can do. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. That was a topic, as I say, at the end of the town hall. So those are the announcements for tonight and today. I do want to say that not only did the band shell look very, very nice, but I want to continue to promote that we're going to be having movie night at the band shell. That's one of the few activities that we're doing this summer with our Parks and Rec team, and I gave some information on that last week, and that'll be coming up. So really a nice opportunity to get out, maybe have a picnic, bring your family, sit and watch some movies, including Black Panther, Aladdin, and other great family fun. We're very pleased today, before we get into our main discussion, to be joined by Chris Franklin, well known to many, and a member of course, the world famous, internationally famous Harlem Globetrotters. And he's going to talk a little bit about the Ultimate Spin Basketball Camp. And I hope you're watching and paying attention, because I know if you're like me and you have kids, they are looking for activities and things to do this summer. Everything has been so impacted by COVID that there are fewer options than usual. Well, we've got a great one. And to tell us more about it, as I say, Chris Franklin is here. Chris, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about the Ultimate Spin Basketball Camp?
Well, first, thank you for having me here. I'm honored to be on your show. And this is our 18th consecutive year of the Ultimate Spin Basketball Camp, but this is our first year that we're doing it virtually, where it was important for us to do a couple of things. Number one, provide something for kids to do in a positive way, especially during the pandemic. Number two, it was important for us to have it be a free event. So it's free for 100 kids. So the first 100 kids that register, they will be in the camp. And it will be from August 3rd to the 6th, every single day from 11 to 1 o'clock. And if you don't have a basketball, if you don't have cones, if you don't have a court, that's fine. What we provide for every single person, not only a basketball, which 100 basketballs were provided by the Harlem Globetrotters, or donated by the Harlem Globetrotters, which I appreciate, to donate to our community. We provide the cones for the kids, T-shirts, masks, and also hand sanitizer. So we call it our social distancing kit. And if you don't have a basketball court access, the first hour is all drills that you can do without a basketball court. And then the second hour are things you would do with a basketball court. So we're honored to be bringing this back to the city. We'll be filming at Reservoir Park with 5 different cameras, and 100 kids will have a great experience.
Yeah, so we're going live from Reservoir Park, and we're doing it virtually. What a great idea! So tell me a little bit more about how this virtual, live casting is going to work, and what will people expect if they sign up and tune in?
Well, our camp focuses on a number of things, not just basketball skills, but also building young leaders and putting a positive message into our youth and instilling that message into the youth. So a lot of the kids that's been through my camp for years, they continue to do positive things in the community. So what you'll get when you pick up your packet, you'll get your basketball, T-shirt, mask, your entire kit, but you'll also get instructions on how to log in. And once you log in, you'll be logged in the entire time. And as you're logged in, you'll go from different drills from place to place. So it's almost like a camp, but virtually.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so free for the first 100 kids at the moment. And so how does one register?
Well, you can email us or contact us at handlesfoundation@gmail.com. If you contact us, and there are a number of things that we'll ask for, and you provide not only your name, age, shirt size, and if you have access to a basketball court or not, we respond to all emails in a timely fashion, and the first 100 people, they'll be registered.
That's exciting. Well, I hope people are watching now and racing to their computer and jotting off an email, because this is going to be a terrific opportunity. What's the age group for the registrants?
Generally, we go from 9 to 16. A lot of times there are kids that are a little more advanced at a younger age, and we accept those kids if we have space.
Great. And is there the possibility that you might be able to ramp this up even beyond 100 kids?
We hope so. The reason why we kept it at 100 is because that's what we have provided when it comes to the basket, the availability of the basketballs, the shirts, the mask, and the different things. So, I mean, if it goes past 100, we may be allow other kids into the camp. We just will only have enough things for the first 100 kids.
Well, that's great. Well, I'll push for sponsors and say that if there are folks out there that want to support, I assume they can make a contribution to the Handles Foundation, and that they can get that same information on the website that Momin just put up on the screen.
I definitely want to send a thank you out to the city and to the Harlem Globetrotters for their support, and for Ron Camianco, who gave a nice donation for kids to come to the camp also. So I want to definitely send a thank you out to the different community businesses that help support our kids, our youth, in our camp.
Great. Thanks for doing that, Ron. Ron has been really working hard to and was a driving force behind the Saturday night dining downtown. So good to hear that he's also trying to help provide opportunities for our youth. Just as a final question, so how are you going to address the issue of social distancing and in group pickup games and group basketball? Obviously the virus has affected all aspects of our life. I know Major League Baseball has just returned. What should people be doing in order to play basketball safely?
Well, I mean, I think that as we move forward, we know that this thing isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So it's important for us to be as safe as possible, even if you are going to be active. I stay active all the time, but of course, I adhere to social distancing. I think if you are going to start playing, you have to start thinking about not only continuously washing your hands and using hand sanitizers, being as safe as possible on all aspects helps prevent the spread of the virus. So if you are going to play, try play wearing a mask and also hand sanitizing. So those are the things. For myself, I think personal workouts where we continue to social distance, but also get better with our basketball games is ideal.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit, Chris, too, about how there are some breathable masks on the market, and that can make a real difference when engaging in athletic activity. And hopefully that's something that people can learn more about and experience. Let me just say a big thank you on the part of all the residents of the city for all that the Handles Foundation does. Really looking forward to this year's Ultimate Spin basketball camp, and we are thrilled that it's able to continue in this virtual way, even amidst this larger pandemic. So thanks for joining us. We're going to Sure. I'm going to end on a real positive note before we switch to Vision Zero as well. And while it is certainly true that the virus is still with us and that nationally we're looking at something of a resurgence, I do have the latest BioBot data. And if you've been watching this show regularly, you'll know that in June we really were seeing increases in the wastewater, measuring of Harrisburg's wastewater to determine the prevalence of the virus, but those have decreased steadily throughout July. And we had the latest report, which is from a sample collection date of July 19th, which is fairly recent, which shows it down again. And the suggested prevalence rate of the virus in Harrisburg now is down to about 2%, a little more than 2%. So if you imagine 2 out of 100 people with the virus, the majority of those people asymptomatic, that is down significantly from what we have, and it's a little what we had in June. It's a little bit of positive news. It means that we are practicing, by and large, social distancing, and these things are beginning to pay off and work, at least in Harrisburg and in Pennsylvania. And I want to thank Governor Wolf and the Secretary of Health for their leadership on this issue. We're going to turn now to our two guests. We have from the city engineer's office, Mr. Wayne Martin, who is the city engineer, and Mr. Ambrose Buck, who is a project manager who works for Wayne. Welcome, guys. We're going to start with you, Wayne, and I'd like to just begin with a little discussion of, what is Vision Zero? We have talked about it in the past. I think people are beginning to understand the concept. It is really influencing every decision that we make on really every level from regarding transportation at the city. But talk to us about Vision Zero and what it means to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having us here today. So Vision Zero, it's a commitment more than anything. It's a commitment to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries that result from motor vehicle crashes. And our goal is to do it by 2030. It's been a widespread use in bigger cities, actually across the world. It started in Europe. New York City was the first in the United States to adopt it. We do have a website that people can visit, and that's brought up on the screen here, visionzerohbg.org or visionzerohbg.com. And what it is, it's a very data-driven approach. So what we did was we created a high injury network by looking at all of the areas in the city where injuries and fatalities have occurred. We like to think of it as the 6 E's, right? So you have your evaluation, which is what the high injury network is doing. It's looking at the areas where we're having issues. There's an engineering component to it. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Some of the projects that are focused on some of the issues that we see as a result of traffic studies. You have your enforcement. The police will enforce, speed limits, things like that. You have your encouragement, which is, a bit different, but you want to promote multimodalism, use of transit, allow, bicyclist, pedestrian activity within that corridor. Everyone has a right to use these public roads. You have equity as well, right? So you want to particularly focus on, folks with disability. We put in about 200 to 300 ADA ramps a year. But you also want to consider other areas, make sure there's a balance across the city with all the different neighborhoods. So certain areas, if you're going to do education, which is the the final E, there has to be an equity consideration to that too. For folks that speak languages other than English, still have to get the message out. So that, in a nutshell, that's Vision Zero, Mayor.
Thank you. And we were very proud as a city to adopt that. And we look to other cities that have adopted this as sort of best practices and inspirational models for a lot that's going on. So as we had this conversation, Wayne, you're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are in the design phase for Vision Zero that people can expect to see in the future. And Ambrose, you're going to talk a little bit about if people were walking around Harrisburg right now, what they will see in the way of construction and projects. And that's partly because you're our project manager here at the city. So why don't you just start, though, by introducing yourself and talking about what a project manager does.
Sure, Mayor. I'm Ambrose Buck. I work in the city engineer's office. And Mayor, I just want to build on what Wayne talked about. As an engineer working in the engineering office, it's not just bricks and mortar. We're actually building a community. A sidewalk isn't just somewhere where people walk, it's actually somebody's front yard. When you're living in the city, the street isn't just where you drive your car, that's your neighborhood. So all these safety improvements aren't just for the sake of safety. They're actually accessibility improvements. They're actually aesthetic improvements. And all of those things combine together to build the community. So I definitely see myself as someone that builds the community in the city of Harrisburg.
And as a project manager, what does that mean though? What do you do?
Mayor, I take the vision of the city engineer and I turn it into bricks and mortar. I turn it into a physical manifestation of a project. We have several projects going on right now throughout the city. 4th and Maclay is going to be an intersection rebuild. Market and Dewberry, I think we have some photos that we're going to go through. We have a 6th Street road diet. Mulder Square, we have new sidewalk and ramps and various signal improvements on a lot of the main corridors, 2nd Street, 7th Street, Forrester, Riley. There's a lot of construction going on.
Great, yes, and we'll get to those projects. And I was just trying to get to the fact that you're actually sort of boots on the ground. You're out there supervising the construction project, monitoring it, giving me reports on a daily basis of progress, and you're there to sort of inspect and make sure that these projects move from the design through construction smoothly and adhere to a budget. And that's a relatively new position for the city. But let's talk about some of these construction projects. Let's start with the one which I think is on everyone's mind, and Momin, you can bring it up, and that is the brand new 6th Street road diet that we've done. We had a little bit of outreach recently at the Broad Street Market. We've been getting a lot of comments from the public, really very positive. Walk us through this project. We'll bring some images up, Ambrose, and what will people expect? If they haven't yet driven down 6th Street, what are they going to find that's different?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So 6th Street is what we call a road diet. And what a road diet means is you end up having fewer travel lanes. So that may seem counterintuitive to a typical motorist, but what you're actually doing is you're removing the obstacles to through traffic. So in particular on 6th Street, as we go through the photos, you'll see that there are bike lanes in each direction, which removes cyclists from the actual flow of traffic. And that does a couple of things. That allows your traffic to actually continue unimpeded through the corridor, but it also gives a safe place for cyclists to ride. Another element of the 6th Street road diet is there's a school bus drop-off zone. So the school bus no longer has to stop in a lane of travel. It has its own designated space on the road. So again, that removes that obstacle from the through travel and provides a place, a safe designated place to drop off students and pick them up again.
Yeah, and these are great pictures. Thanks for bringing them, Ambrose. But we were approached, as you know, by the Harrisburg School District with basically the problem of Ben Franklin and how unsafe it was during the pickup and drop-off times. Part of the solution was as you described, but it was done in partnership with them. And it's really a win for everyone. Another win about the project is that we are gaining parking. And I know that many in the neighborhood feel that with the added economic development activity, the new courthouse, you name it, there's more and more pressure for more public parking. And we are, by eliminating that lane, able to add how many parking spaces? Do you remember?
Yeah, there's approximately 41 parking spaces. So it is, again, we're building the community. And as you already mentioned, the city is sensitive to the input from the community, not only the residents, the school district, and we try and work those details into the projects so that at the end of the day, they are a benefit to the community. The other side benefit of the parking is it does have a traffic calming aspect to the project.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Ambrose. And the whole 6th Street corridor, this is the area which really is between Riley Street and the new courthouse development all the way down to Foster Street and the state complex. There are other aspects of 6th Street that I know we've targeted for additional improvements, accessibility, ADA, and other things as we move forward. So that's an update on 6th Street. People should check that out. I'm going to go back to you, Wayne, and we're going to talk about 7th Street. We'll stay geographically in the same area, but 6th Street was always going in tandem with a new vision for 7th Street. Many people know 7th Street, at least the part of 7th Street that was widened and improved from Riley down to Maclay, but we've been trying to focus on a new vision for that portion of 7th Street with the meters in the middle of the street near the FIA building, and we've talked about this a bit, and I bet folks would like to know a status update of where we are with the project and what we can expect to see coming soon for 7th Street.
Right, so 7th Street, very ambitious project. It, like you mentioned, it takes the widened, improved section all the way down to Her Street and Boas, where it ties into the state route there, and it adds a modern day roundabout near the federal courthouse to facilitate traffic flows in and around the courthouse. Removes the angled parking in front of the FIA building and allows for pedestrian access and refuge island. It does a lot of different things, from traffic calming. Here's that center median, right? So you're going to have shade trees in the area, reduce that urban heat island effect, better manage stormwater in the area, which is basically currently all asphalt or concrete. Street trees also have a traffic calming effect, better livability for the city, just an enjoyable corridor to travel once the improvements are completed. The other thing that roundabout does is it's going to allow traffic to basically make 360s. So you can eliminate a lot of left-hand turns, which are particularly issues with, left turns creates a conflict with the oncoming motorists. So, folks can do a 360 movement and then make right-hand turns instead of all these left-hand turns that are particularly issues on that section of North 7th Street. So all in all, just a great project. We are doing, we're at 95% design completion. We have our NPDS permit, which is a permit issued by DEP through Dauphin County Conservation District. Check that. Working on right-of-way clearance, and the highway occupancy permit, where it ties into the state route. And once we have those, that final permit and those right-of-ways in place, we can go ahead and bid this out for construction. Our goal is to bid it out end of this year, end of 2020, get those contractors lined up, order their materials, and hit the ground running in the spring of 2021.
That's great, Wayne. Thanks for that update. And between 6th and 7th, you see sort of contrast in styles and costs. 6th Street was basically able to be done a little more rapidly because essentially it was paint. It was paint and a redesign. 7th Street a little more complicated. We're moving parking. We're removing we're putting in a roundabout and a cycle track and everything else. It's also a much more expensive project, but it's fully funded, grant funded, and people can look to see that actually underway next year, which is exciting. So that's 6th and 7th. Let's skip to another area of the city now, Ambrose, and talk a little bit about Mulder Square, because I know people are very excited with some of the blight remediation projects, the new infill development that the Housing Authority has done. It's looking good, but we promised a real upgrade in public infrastructure in that area, and it is underway to some extent, and other aspects are in the design phase. So let's start with you. What's going on right now in Mulder Square that people will see if they visit?
Yeah, Mayor, you're 100% right. The work that's happening right now in Mulder Square is a precursor of other things to come. The city has a project under design that Wayne may touch on. But what Mulder Square is doing, it's providing an accessible route from the main intersection of Dairy Street and Mulberry right at 13th the whole way down Dairy Street, where it dead ends at Sylvan Terrace. So the city has provided over 1,500 feet of sidewalk, 12 ADA ramps, and some additional stormwater management. This is an area where the sidewalk was in really poor condition. Concrete is very expensive for a homeowner. So this was an opportunity for the city to utilize some grant money to improve these neighborhoods and provide these accessible routes. The future plans call for more development along Dairy Street in this area and adding a park at the end of Dairy Street. So these sidewalks, ramps will provide that accessible route to the future infrastructure improvements.
Absolutely. And that's one of the first projects that got underway when we were back and able to work, post the shutdown of COVID. And it's very noticeable, and it really is just the beginning. When we talk about the city's role and responsibility, it's twofold. It's one to sort of have a vision for a longer term design, but it's also to really address the public infrastructure as a companion piece to the private investment and the organizational investment and the community investment that is occurring all around it. So Wayne, let's talk to you. These ramps are just the beginning. Mulder Square was something that we received a larger state grant fund for, and what can the public expect to see in the next stages of the infrastructure development?
Great. So Mulder Square has actually 3 different projects. We'll start with the park. The Dairy Street currently ends at a cul-de-sac. There's no homes or anything undeveloped, and then there's a set of stairs at the bottom that goes down to Cameron. So one of the goals of Vision Zero is to activate streets, right? So we talk about ADA ramps, and what an ADA ramp does is obviously allow someone with different abilities to get up on a curb or get down onto the street level from a sidewalk. But what it also does is it activates the street. We see people pushing baby carriages, grocery carts, whatever they have. It gives them access to, activates the streets, reduces crime. Just improves quality of life all around. So this project here will take those steps that are actually utilized. And we saw some goat paths and some things through the trees. And so why not build infrastructure where we know people are using? So this green area, just provides a safe, comfortable place to connect a neighborhood down to Market Street, the bus stops along Cameron. Activates another route between the neighborhoods and the downtown area. There's an existing condition photograph of the cul-de-sac on the end of Dairy, which is often littered with illegal dumping and things like that. So this is a way to revitalize this area, improve quality of life of these neighborhoods.
Yep, and some of the ramps that Ambrose was describing really allow people to eventually traverse their way safely to the new designs here that you're seeing. Give us a sense of timing for this project. I know it's been in the works for a while, but where do we stand with design and possible construction?
So the timeline on this project, again, there's 2 other sites on this project I don't want to miss. One is a mini roundabout at the intersection of Mulberry and Dairy. We had extensive public meetings, and to my surprise, the public did have an appetite for mini roundabouts. They're traffic calming devices. They are gateways, right? So they wanted to see that in their neighborhood, and we're going to deliver. The other one is Nectarine Street, and it's an existing alley that's beyond its useful life. We're going to activate that space by removing all the asphalt, put in stormwater pavers, and allow green infrastructure, allow, just liven it up, and hopefully we think it'll activate more for pedestrians than the vehicles. Of course, vehicles will be allowed on there, but when you have a predominant pedestrian activity, you want to on a corridor, you want to make the improvements for those pedestrians. So timeline, this one is very similar. This one could actually go out to bid even earlier. This one contains a lot of excavation, and we see that as some available work for winter. Roads, asphalts, there's only so many months of the year where asphalt can be done. Concrete tends to freeze and things. You have to make certain precautions to pour concrete in the winter, but excavation can certainly occur in the winter. So this one is ready to go. We're about 90%. We have an HOP permit that we're in the final stages of completing the, addressing the comments. This one's tied to some funding and some unique funding. It's an RCAP grant through the Redevelopment Authority. So we're just working out the details on that, how to get the reimbursement, finalizing the agreements and things like that. But this one could go as early as September, October, with possible winter work in November, December, January, February, with completion date early in 2021.
That's great. Yeah, and we will talk a little bit about how we're paying for these projects because it really is a tremendous tying together a variety of grants and support from different agencies. Just as 7th Street was tied to PennDOT multimodal grant, this is tied to a state RCAP grant, and we want to thank Governor Wolf. This was one of the first grants that the city got as, the Redevelopment Authority, but working with the city as a sort of direct recipient for this type of work. Let's switch now and go downtown and talk about an amazing new addition at Market in Dewberry. Ambrose, if people haven't seen what's going on there, what are they going to be in for when they make it down to Market in Dewberry?
Yeah, the Market in Dewberry is a mid-block crossing that has a traffic calming effect, but it's also a raised crosswalk. So that does a couple of things. That forces cars to slow down, but it also gives pedestrians a little bit of elevation to help them see the cars coming down the street. So it's a win-win for both pedestrians and vehicles. The project is an all-concrete raised intersection along with the pavement markings that you see here to make it very visible. It's an area of downtown that a lot of people are already crossing. So we said, hey, let's just make it official. There's a lot of businesses there. There's a lot of people crossing the street. There is not a traffic signal there. So this is an excellent way to provide a safe crossing to allow people to utilize those businesses and motorists to see the people when they're actually crossing the street.
Yeah, it's really made a big difference. Is that a new type of design feature that we can expect to see perhaps deployed more in the future?
Will. I think you'll see this treatment on 2nd Street as we move forward with that. And I think you can see it in other locations too, where appropriate.
That's great. Well, I hope people will check it out. It is a major safety improvement. And not far from Market in Dewberry, we are planning, Wayne, what we're calling the East-West Connection. And let's talk a little bit about what's underway in terms of design there.
Right. So the East-West Connection is a focus on 3 corridors, although our current project is just phase 1, is just 2 of those corridors. So we're looking at the Chestnut Street corridor and tying it, the transportation center there, the train station, Market Street, which isn't in the current phase 1, and then Walnut Street. So all those are our east-west corridors. The current project, phase 1, focuses on Chestnut Street, and Walnut Street. So Walnut Street, between North Front Street and 4th Street, is due. The condition of the asphalt's very poor. So we just started the design phase last week. There's a lot of concepts to improve this corridor. The one we're looking at here on the screen is bump outs at 2nd and Walnut. We know that intersection will be a complete rebuild. So those bump outs reduce the crosswalk distance, provide traffic calming element. Those were deployed on 3rd Street, which I'm sure everyone's aware. Also, 2nd and Chestnut has that treatment. So that's something that we're looking at there. We're also going to consider different parking configurations on Walnut between 3rd and 4th. Potentially the addition of bike lanes. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop some concepts, and then we're going to go out to the public like we always do and see what they like, right? We're going to talk to the stakeholders. We're going to talk to Department of General Services, Capital Area Transit, Strawberry Square, Downtown Improvement District. We're going to work with all those stakeholders, all those residents in the area, and see what concepts they like for the project, and then implement the recommendations.
That's great, Wayne. And the bump outs and improvements on Walnut Street will really, really help pedestrians. But we already see some of the changes on Chestnut Street, so they're fairly recent. But can you talk a little bit about how Chestnut Street has changed?
So Chestnut Street also went through a road diet. We added, we took out 1 lane and added 2 bike lanes. The condition of the pavement is pretty poor. We have some shoving from the buses and things up between 4th and 3rd. So the project we're going to do is going to improve the condition of the asphalt, and maybe some modest changes. Obviously, some ADA improvements on some of the intersections there, Dewberry and Dewberry both sides, east, north and south side of 3rd Chestnut Street. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a great improvement. I mean, with Chestnut Street bike lanes, we've connected the Capital Area Greenbelt with the Amtrak, station, the train station. That was a big multimodal connection. With that connection and the ability to take the Greenbelt all the way up to, say, Riley Street. It actually enabled the federal courthouse to get a LEED certification, which is a green type certification for their building, because you actually have bike amenities from the train station to the new federal courthouse. And we do hope that these bike amenities that are being installed, these bicycle amenities that are being installed, are utilized. We had a bike share program that was very successful. Unfortunately, that vendor is no longer in business, but we are looking at other bike share programs. And then there's also other micro mobility, proposals that other cities are seeing, such as the electric scooters, pedal assisted bicycles, and those. And we don't want them, electronic scooters on our sidewalks, and they don't want to be in the travel lanes. So the bike lanes are where they want to be, and that's where we want them to be. And it's all about providing access to all different modes of transportation.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Just mentioned Chestnut because it's such a transformation, and it's in advance of many different things, not just the potential coming of scooters but the eventual building of the Harrisburg University development and increasing the density of the people that are downtown. Also, the East-West Connection was funded by yet another grant, and one that we should thank Senator John DeSanto for helping us achieve. So just from the public standpoint, many different sources of funding, constantly looking for ways to fund these projects, which are expensive and can be expensive, especially depending on the amount of design. So Ambrose, back to you, and let's go uptown now from the downtown, and let's talk about what's going on at 4th and Maclay.
Sure. At 4th and McClay, we have a total intersection rebuild. We have new signal heads. We have new asphalt on 4th Street as well as McClay, all the way from 4th, tying into the new asphalt on 3rd Street. But the other thing, Mayor, and probably most important to the residents there was some brick sidewalk that was in really poor condition. And that brick sidewalk is now gone and replaced with brand new concrete sidewalk. You can see here in the photographs that are scrolling the new paint markings on the road, new crosswalks, stop bars, no parking triangles. And it's really a huge improvement to that intersection. Both churches on the two northern corners of McClay have received bi-directional ADA ramps. So that should really help the accessibility to those churches.
Absolutely. It's been a really completely transformative project. It looks beautiful, and people should absolutely check that out. Wayne, I know one of the projects that we've talked a lot about historically over the past several years, and that I get questions every day, when's it going to happen? What's the status, is the proposed 2nd Street conversion from one-way to two-way. Can you give us an update? Where are we?
Great. So we are entering the final design phase of the Second Street two-way project. We had extensive public outreach because this is a major transformational project. We want to make sure we got all the input from all the residents, all the stakeholders involved. We will see some. Ambrose had mentioned we're going to see some different features on this corridor. We're going to see a raised intersection at 2nd and Radnor. We're going to see mini roundabouts. These could be the first mini roundabouts in the city, depending on which project gets first, Mulder Square or 2nd Street. There's a lot of, you can see the pedestrian refuge island. So the road configuration will add, lanes in each direction as opposed to the 3 northbound lanes that currently exist. Pedestrian refuge areas on one side of major intersections with left turn lanes on the opposite side. The project is, like I said, entering in the final design phase. Our anticipation is to complete that this year, get it out to bid this winter, and a construction date in the spring as well. Now, some of the ramps will start this fall. We've already bid out about, 28 ramps. Capital Region Water is going to be working this summer, fall on some inlet replacements, sewer line replacements, and of course, UGI is just finishing up their main gas main replacement. So there's a lot of construction activity that took place before the city comes in to do the ramps and the roadway repaving. And I do want to thank Capital Region Water. I do want to thank UGI. It's very important that those utilities coordinate with the city and that the city coordinate with those utilities. I was asked one time, what makes a smart city? And someone else had answered, it's the city that coordinates with the utilities before paving, because the last thing we want to see is brand new paved roads put down at taxpayer dollars get ripped up because of failure to coordinate with utilities. So that project's on track. Now, one thing I do want to bring up to the public, it's maybe a slight change, or maybe they weren't considering it, but it will probably go two-way, and I say probably because the contractor's means and methods, but the plan is for it to go two-way right at the start of construction. What that does is a couple things. It allows the temporary traffic control to operate in a normal manner, and it does test how effective a two-way conversion will be, before building it out. So we've been doing the traffic analysis. So, we spent a lot of money doing a full-blown traffic analysis of what this conversion would do. And it actually improves traffic flows at all the major intersections in the area. So, we do want to make sure that our analysis is true, the models are correct, and we will, have that opportunity to test during the early parts of construction.
Yeah, thanks for reiterating that. That has been a question on people's mind. How are you going to do the actual conversion itself? The construction is going to, is extensive, and I think you've answered it by saying it's going to happen right at the start. So, two-way 2nd Street coming next year in the final stages of design now, and people should continue to expect to see additional construction and road work on 2nd Street this year, whether it's us adding additional ramps or utilities finalizing that work. I know 2nd Street has been it seems like it's been dug up extensively over the past several years, and that's really a good thing. If people look for the long term, we've got to get that work done before repaving the street. So that's a huge project. It's going to be transformative. It's going to connect the neighborhood to the river, and it's going to change traffic flow patterns for residents and commuters alike. So we wanted to give that a little more attention here today. We're gonna sort of finish the conversation now, Ambrose and Wayne, with basically a discussion of the high injury network and where our focus needs to be. And I want to end with State Street, which is a top priority and deserves some more discussion. But Ambrose, I think one of the things that people notice when they're driving through the city is all the improvements that have been made really throughout the corridor for our traffic signals. And can you talk a little bit about the signal improvements? And I mean, this has been sort of nonstop work over the past year.
Yeah, you're right, Mayor. We've targeted a couple of different corridors. There's been extensive work done already, and more work to come on 2nd Street. Washington has already received all new signal heads, all new pedestrian push buttons, new countdown pedestrian signal heads. And you'll see those new pedestrian countdown heads from Washington all the way through North Street. Forester Street has already received the countdown signal heads. So, it really makes those two main corridors much safer for the pedestrians. The new traffic signals that are shown now are 12-inch LEDs versus the 8-inch that were there before. More visible to the motorists, along with the back plates that help draw your attention to the signal heads. And you'll see these types of improvements coming on Locust, Pine, and State. So Washington and North are two intersections on 2nd Street that are complete. But you're also going to see all these types of improvements on Forester Street. On Front Street, you'll see brand new signal heads are already in place. 2nd, 3rd, Green, 6th, 7th, and Her are all getting the same treatment. I would say we're about 50% complete on the Forester Street corridor. 4th Street, 6th Street, and Riley Street are also going to get signal improvements. And I just want to mention part of those signal improvements are the priority signal changes for emergency vehicles. So there's a system called an Opticom. When an emergency vehicle approaches an intersection, the lights will change to allow that emergency vehicle to pass.
Yeah, that's important, and the upgrades are really noticeable, and they're incredibly beneficial. But that should explain to people a little bit more about what they're seeing and why they're seeing it. And again, we've used our high injury network as the background for how we prioritize these type of signal improvements and pavement marking upgrades. So thank you for that, Ambrose. And Wayne, let's end on State Street. This has been a source of constant concern and frustration among many in Harrisburg. Unlike other streets that are city streets that we have control over, from the very beginning with State Street, there's had to have been a negotiation really with the Commonwealth over what improvements are going to be allowed for this street. Can you talk a little bit about that and just give us a status report on where we are, because this is the top priority in terms of the high injury network. It is a top priority of mine and of City Council's.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, you're right. I mean, State Street is the city's #1 priority. We are in coordination with PennDOT. We came in very aggressive and proposed a road diet, and PennDOT, rightfully had some concerns over how traffic would function. We continue to coordinate with PennDOT, and talk. So here's your existing typical section. I think part of the reason that State Street has had so many injury crashes and fatalities is just the enormous crossing distance of this corridor. It's just huge. So the one thing we want to do is allow pedestrians a little bit shorter place to cross, narrow those lanes. I know when you're in a motor vehicle and you're traveling down a 12-foot lane, that's plenty wide, and speeds get up. We were measuring speeds in the 50-mile-an-hour range, and that's through a school zone, right, where it's 15 miles an hour. So one thing we want to do is tighten those lanes down, those travel lanes down. Also, one of the more recent fatalities was a bicyclist. Bicyclists use State Street very extensively, right? It connects neighborhoods to the downtown area. It also bisects the capital area Greenbelt, where it ties in at Civil War Museum and Parkway Drive, and there's bike amenities there. So we are going to add bike amenities, and what the proposal is to actually have parking restrictions during the peak hours. So much like through Paxton Township, where they have parking permitted, and then during peak hours, peak hours on the PM peak would be in the eastbound direction, AM peak would be in the westbound direction. You would have parking restrictions for those, 1 hour each day per side, and we would separate the bike lanes with the parking lane with concrete blocks. So that's the proposal in front of PennDOT. PennDOT has generally signed off on it. There may be some signage and things like that we need to add. We're going to do some more public outreach, because this is not the project that we sat down with community action leaders and residents of the corridor and brainstormed. It's a little bit different than the one that we came up with, in that it does have some parking restrictions, but it's definitely a safety improvement. In addition to that, we have been making modest safety improvement changes to the corridor. We did improve those intersections, like Ambrose had mentioned, the high visibility crosswalks, the reflective backplates, the 8-inch heads, new push buttons throughout the corridor, pedestrian countdown signals. We also have some lighting upgrades scheduled to occur in this August. Every one of those post-top lights will be replaced with a brighter LED. The current LEDs are there, but these are brighter, more lumens. LED technology continues to advance. We're also going to turn the lights. So currently they sit sort of perpendicular to the road. So we're going to turn those two tops. Actually, they've already been turned, even though they're the old heads. They've already turned those. But that spreads that light out across the corridor. So this project is, we have to continue to work with the Commonwealth, and we're real close to getting a delivery date on this project.
Great. So just to be clear, then, really the breakthrough with PennDOT was a willingness to compromise on on having a certain degree of parking restrictions on the street. Originally, the city proposal was we want people to be able to park there 100% of the time. PennDOT said, well, how about 90% of the time? And during those peak hours, let's restrict the parking. That's essentially the proposed compromise. It's absolutely a step in the right direction. It is something that we now can get their sign off to do, and it still has all the other components of the rapid response safety improvements that we've put forth. We're going to be taking that back to the public with those concepts for a series of meetings. Can you talk a little bit about the outreach that's planned before we get to, so that we can get to hopefully consensus on the compromise and move forward?
So early, mid second week of August, we're gonna try and have a stakeholder. We have a Vision Zero, actually not stakeholder, a task force meeting. We have a Vision Zero task force, which does have 2 residents of the State Street corridor on that task force. So we'd like to have a task force meeting, hopefully the second week of August. Spend about a half hour of that 1 hour meeting on State Street, get some feedback from them, utilize those task force members to reach out, to the community, and also have some pop-up events along State Street. We've been pretty successful with the pop-up events during the COVID. We're outside. There we are with the city pop-up tent. Residents want to know why we're there. Come on up and talk to us, and give us your input. We will give some advance notice before we do the pop-ups. But that's our plan right now, to engage the public, get their feedback on this. Obviously, this is being broadcast here today. We invite the public to contact us through the 311 system, through the Vision Zero website, Vision Zero email. Ask us questions. Tell us what you like and don't like about the plan. We're all ears at this point.
Yep, and we'd like to see the improvements for State Street absolutely take place no later than next year. And that can happen, but we've got to make sure that we're all willing to compromise, meaning the community, PennDOT, the city, on a plan that everyone can see as a step forward, and that's where we are. So you can look for that outreach. You can send your comments and questions in. There's a lot more that we could have talked about today. We sort of ran out of time. We could have talked a little bit about proposed improvements for the dangerous intersection at Front and Forster, maybe the extension of the proposed urban meadow up to the new federal courthouse, or recent improvements made for Industrial Road. We could go on and on. So much going on in our traffic and engineering team in the city of Harrisburg, but I hope the public found that useful and interesting. Momen, I bet there are a bunch of questions. I'm going to turn it over to you, but I'm going to ask a question first because Chris asked it at the beginning of the show, and people ask it to me all the time. Ambrose Buck, that is a very distinctive name. Are you related to the Ambrose Buck of Steelton?
Yeah. So my dad was athletic director at Steel High. He was a teacher there for 30 years. So I meet a lot of people and they say, hey, are you related to AC Buck or Mr. Buck? Or, I get that a lot. And I'm not popular, but my dad is more popular than I'll ever be.
Oh, no. It's great. It's wonderful. It must be wonderful to have people share memories about your father on a regular basis. But that's what you get when you're Ambrose Buck, the, what, 5th, 6th, 7th?
Yeah, we don't count. But
okay, all right.
Yeah, I think Mr. Franklin was a graduate of Susquehanna Township High School. And I think he and I shared the same class.
Oh, well, that too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All
Yes.
right. Well, we didn't plan that in advance, so good to know. All right, Momen, to the public.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The first question is actually for Chris. The question is, since this camp is being held virtually this year, can you please let folks know about how you and your team will handle kids that show up at the park to participate in the camp, and especially since many kids will see some action occurring and will want to participate. Can they participate?
Yes. Well, as an organization, we're practicing social distance. We very well could have tried to do the camp with kids and have them socially distanced, but we decided to do it virtually so more kids could participate, number one, and number two, adhere to the specifications of staying apart that has been suggested. So while we're filming, it will not be open to the public, and we'll have barricades so people can't drive up. If people happen to come watch, I wouldn't be a stickler to keep them away. I would just hope that they would adhere to staying socially distanced.
Okay, great, thank you. We had a comment from Scott. He's happy to hear the news about the State Street improvements. A question for Wayne. I'll toss this to you. This is from Deborah regarding Front Street. She says, the bike lane is nice on Front Street. Unfortunately, many bicyclists are still using the sidewalk for safety. Will you be adding pylons along the bike lane for safety like downtown on 3rd Street?
Certainly, Front Street could utilize some delineator posts. Front Street's also a state route, so we'd definitely have to coordinate with PennDOT on that treatment. It's not currently planned. It is something sort of in the back of our minds. Now, Front Street has a bike lane, and we always expected that bike lane would be used by the confident, aggressive bikers, and that are going to want to travel at the 19-mile-an-hour speeds. Get them off the path so that the slower, less confident bikers, children, and such have more room, on the riverfront park path. As everyone knows, we improved, resurfaced the lower Riverwalk too, and I've seen a lot of bicyclists down there. It's very, much safer than it was. No displacements of the concrete anymore. Just a pleasurable ride down there. So we expect a lot more bicyclists down there. So to answer the question, delineator posts could be utilized. It would take some coordination with PennDOT. We've been closely monitoring Front Street, the success of Front Street road diet. Right, it went from 3 lanes to 2 lanes with a bike. It actually dramatically improves safety for both pedestrians. Well, actually for pedestrians, they have less lanes to cross. There's also been a lot less vehicle crashes along that corridor since it's been implemented. So, like I said at the beginning, Vision Zero is a very data-driven approach, and so we're not seeing data spikes, along Front Street. So we're going to utilize our resources on some of these corridors where we are seeing issues, such as State Street, but if that's occurring in a new set of data, the PennDOT publishes that data every year. That is certainly something that we would look to implement.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll toss this next question to Ambrose regarding road diet and 3rd Street. Has there been a noticeable improvement there, especially with that traffic flow?
Yeah, so the question, I guess, is about 3rd Street. As Wayne mentioned, it is a data-driven approach, and I would say that there has been improvements. Wayne is the actual keeper of the data, so he could give you a better idea of what the numbers actually are. The traffic team is continuing to utilize the delineators. We just completed a couple of little construction projects, so you're going to see more delineators on the bike lanes for 3rd Street. But all the feedback I've received so far has been very positive. Motorists, bicyclists alike, like the treatment on 3rd Street.
And the questioner, Momin, may have been referring to, maybe was referring to the linear post, but may also have been referring to the bump outs done in conjunction with Capital Region Water a little further north in the city. And my question for Wayne would be, I know there was a lot of talk about stop signs at one point. Do you feel that that project in general has had the traffic calming effects that we had hoped? And does the data show it?
Yeah, so it's a little bit early for the data, Mayor. PennDOT takes about 6 months after the end of the year to compile the data. We're anxious to see what the data shows. We'll rerun our new high injury network annual network analysis after that data comes out. It's real interesting too with COVID to see what the data is just going to be different. There's a lot less commuters in the city the past few months, so I don't know how the data will be skewed in that direction. And we have not measured speeds of the corridor. That is a follow-up we could do with. We have tube counters that can measure speeds along the corridor. Compare pre and post implementation. But I would say generally, just anecdotally, it does seem to have a pretty drastic traffic calming effect on the corridor. And residents and commuters and folks that travel that corridor on a regular basis have communicated to me that they also believe that the traffic calming bump outs and things were very effective.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks to all my guests. And it was just a filled with information broadcast today. So if people have continual questions, please send them in. Call 301. Visit the vision0.org website. And we'll keep you posted as all these things move forward right here on Facebook Live. So with that, let me say I'm Mayor Eric Pampus. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time on Facebook Live, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.